There's a particular kind of invisibility that comes with being seen but not recognized. It's not the invisibility of absence, it's the invisibility of presence without acknowledgement. You stand in a room full of people, and their eyes pass over you like your furniture, like your wallpaper, like you belong to the architecture but not to the moment. And here's what nobody tells you about that kind of invisibility. It doesn't matter how many degrees you have, how many cases you've won, or how high you've climbed. There will always be a door where someone asks you to prove you belong. Always a room where your presence is treated as an error to be corrected. Always a moment where you have to decide, do I prove myself again, or do I stand in the truth of who I am and let the world catch up? This is a story about one of those moments, but it's also a story about what happens after. Because the moment of humiliation, the instant of disrespect, that's just the spark. The fire comes from what we choose to do with it. Do we burn the house down, or do we rebuild it better? Anna Wilkins is about to face that choice, and so is everyone around her. It's 7:43 in the morning on a Tuesday in October, and Anna Wilkins sits in her chambers at the United States Supreme Court, her fingers tracing the edge of a legal brief that's been marked up so many times the margins look like a conversation between past and present. The case before her today is about voting rights, specifically whether a state can require photo identification that costs money to obtain. Her clerks have prepared everything. The oral arguments are scheduled for 9 o'clock. But Anna isn't thinking about the case right now. She's thinking about a girl from Mobile, Alabama, who once walked 3 miles in the rain to get to the library because the one in her neighborhood had been closed for budget reasons. That girl is her. That girl is why she does this work. Her senior clerk, Michael, pokes his head through the door. Justice Wilkins, the car service just called. They're running 30 minutes late. Traffic on Constitution Avenue. Anna glances at her watch. 7:45. She needs to be in the building by 8:30 to review her notes one final time before taking the bench. It's fine, she says. I'll walk through the side entrance. I've done it 1,000 times. Michael hesitates. Are you sure? I can have someone, Michael. Anna says gently. I'm 53 years old and I've been walking through doors on my own for quite some time. I'll be fine. What she doesn't say is this. She prefers walking through doors on her own. It's a small act of defiance, a refusal to be escorted and managed like a fragile thing. She is not fragile. She is a woman who grew up in a town where the schools were integrated on paper but segregated in practice, where she learned early that excellence was not a guarantee of acceptance but a requirement for survival. She made it to Yale Law School. She clerked for Justice Thurgood Marshall. She argued 18 cases before the Supreme Court before she was appointed to it. And still, there are days when she walks into rooms and feels the weight of people's surprise. Their unspoken question, are you sure you're supposed to be here? She gathers her papers, slips them into her leather satchel, and walks out of her chambers at 8:14. The hallways of the Supreme Court are quiet this early, just the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant sound of a janitor's cart rolling across marble floors. She takes the elevator down to the ground level, then steps out into the cool October morning. The side entrance is just 100 yards away. She's made this walk countless times. At 8:19, she reaches the employee entrance, a modest door set into the stone facade, marked with a small brass plaque that reads, Authorized Personnel Only. She reaches for the handle. Ma'am, excuse me. Ma'am. The voice is young, male, and carries the kind of authority that comes from a uniform rather than experience. Anna turns. A police officer, no, a courthouse security officer. She corrects herself, noting the badge is walking toward her. He's in his late 20s, maybe early 30s, with a crew cut and a posture that suggests he's practiced standing up straight in front of a mirror. His name tag reads T. Brennan. Yes, Anna says. Public entrance is around the front of the building, ma'am. This door is for employees only. Anna looks at him. Really look at him. His eyes are doing that thing eyes do when they're making a calculation based on appearance. She's wearing a gray blazer, black slacks, and low heels. Professional, but not flashy. Her hair is natural, pulled back into a neat bun. She's carrying a leather satchel, not a designer handbag. She is, at this moment, just a black woman in her 50s trying to enter a building. And to Officer Thomas Brennan, that equation does not compute authorized personnel. I work here, Anna says simply. This is the entrance I use. Thomas smiles, not unkindly, but with a certainty that sets Anna's teeth on edge. It's the smile of someone who believes they're being helpful. I'm sure you do, ma'am, but I still need to see your ID. Building policy. Anna reaches into her bag and pulls out her wallet. She could show him her Supreme Court identification card, the one with her photo and the words Associate Justice embossed in gold. But something stops her. Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's the principle. Maybe it's the memory of that girl walking 3 miles in the rain, refusing to accept that some doors were meant to stay closed. She hands him her driver's license instead. Thomas examines it, then hands it back. This doesn't grant building access, Ms. Wilkins. Do you have an employee badge? A court summons? Attorney credentials? What access do you think I need? Anna asks. Thomas shifts his weight slightly. Well, if you're an employee, you'd have a badge. If you're here for court business, you'd have documentation. If you're an attorney, you'd have a bar card. He says this in the tone of someone explaining something obvious to someone who should already know it. And if I told you I have oral arguments at 9 o'clock? Anna says. Thomas laughs. It's not cruel exactly. It's the kind of laugh you give when someone makes a joke that doesn't quite land. Then you'd have a case file and a bar card, ma'am. Look, I'm not trying to give you a hard time. I'm just doing my job. Anna feels something shift inside her chest. It's not anger, not yet. It's something older and wearier. It's the knowledge that this moment was inevitable, that no matter how high she climbs, there will always be a Thomas Brennan at a door, requiring her to prove she belongs. Your job, Anna says quietly, is to protect this building and the people in it. I'm not a threat. I'm trying to get to work. I understand that, ma'am, but do you? Anna interrupts, and now there's steel in her voice. Do you understand that I'm standing in a public lobby, having broken no law and violated no policy, and you decided I don't belong here based on what exactly? Thomas's smile fades. Ma'am, I'm not making this about. About what? Anna asks. Say it. The silence stretches between them like a wire pulled taut. Thomas doesn't say it. He doesn't have to. They both know. And then, from across the lobby, a voice. Thomas, everything okay? Anna turns. A man in his 50s, wearing the same uniform as Thomas, but with sergeant stripes on his sleeves, is walking toward them. His face is weathered in the way that speaks of decades on the job. His name tag reads J. Torres. Just checking credentials, Jay, Thomas says, and Anna hears the defensiveness creeping into his voice. J. Torres looks at Anna, then at Thomas, then back at Anna, and Anna sees it. The flicker of recognition in his eyes, followed immediately by the calculation. Do I step in? Or do I let this play out? Ma'am, Jay says carefully, if you could just... No, Anna says. Not loudly, not angrily, just firmly. I could, but I won't. Thomas straightens. See? She's being difficult. No, Anna says again. I'm being a black woman who's tired of proving I belong in spaces I built. The lobby is no longer quiet. 2 junior officers have stopped to watch. A court clerk paused on her way to the elevator, her hand frozen on her phone. And in the background, moving quickly past a pillar as if he hasn't seen any of this, is Judge Richard Dunham, a federal appellate judge who sat on a panel with Anna 7 years ago at a legal conference in Boston. He knows exactly who she is, and he's choosing to keep walking. Anna sees him. Their eyes meet for half a second, and then he's gone, disappeared around a corner like a ghost fleeing daylight. That's when Anna feels it, not anger, but something deeper. Betrayal. Not by Thomas, who doesn't know any better. By Dunham, who does. Thomas is still talking. Ma'am, I don't care what color you are. Rules are rules. Then follow them, Anna says. What rule am I breaking? Unauthorized access to restricted. I'm standing in a public lobby, Anna interrupts. I've broken no rule. You've presumed I don't belong. J. Torres steps forward. Thomas, maybe we should. Jay, I got this, Thomas says, and there's an edge in his voice now, the edge of someone who feels his authority slipping and is trying to grab it back. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you one more time to either provide proper credentials or exit the building. Anna doesn't move. Or what? The question hangs in the air. Thomas opens his mouth, then closes it. He hasn't thought this far ahead. He's been operating on assumption and instinct, and now he's in a corner. That's when another voice enters the conversation. Is there a problem here? This voice is older, heavier with authority. A man in plainclothes slacks, button-down shirt, badge clipped to his belt approaches. His name tag reads J. Martinez, supervisor. He's in his early 40s, with the kind of face that's seen enough trouble to know when it's about to get worse. No problem, Joel, Thomas says quickly. Just checking credentials. Joel Martinez looks at Anna the way a man looks at a puzzle he's trying to solve. Ma'am, I apologize for any inconvenience. If you could just show us some form of identification that grants building access. No, Anna says. Joel blinks. Excuse me. I said no. I will not perform compliance to soothe your officer's bias. Joel's jaw tightens. Ma'am, that's not what this is. Then what is it? Anna asks. Explain to me why I, a woman standing in a public space, am being asked to prove I have a right to exist here. Nobody's questioning your right to exist, Joel says, and Anna hears the exasperation creeping into his voice. We're asking you to follow building protocols. Which protocol requires me to justify my presence based on your assumptions about who I am? Joel turns to Jay. Is she always like this? Jay doesn't answer. He's staring at Anna with an expression that's somewhere between respect and dread, like a man watching a train approach a washed-out bridge and realizing there's no way to stop it. Joel turns back to Anna. Ma'am, I'm asking you one more time. Show us credentials or leave the building. And if I refuse? Joel's face hardens. Then I'll have you escorted out. There's a collective intake of breath from the onlookers. One of the junior officers with a young woman with him on her name tag looks away, suddenly very interested in something on the floor. The other junior officer, a Latino man whose tag reads Martinez, takes a small step forward, then stops, torn between loyalty to his colleagues and the growing sense that something is very wrong here. Jay Torres finally speaks. Joel, I don't think. Jay, this is not your call. Joel says sharply. Thomas, call building security. Have her removed. Thomas pulls out his radio, but his hand is shaking slightly. Security to the main lobby. Need assistance with it, he pauses, glancing at Anna. With a non-compliant individual. Anna stands perfectly still. She's not trembling. She's not raising her voice. She's simply present, a vertical line of refusal in a system designed to bend people into compliance. And then something happens that nobody expects. Laura Chun, the court clerk who's been standing frozen by the elevator, pulls out her phone and starts recording. Laura, put that away, Joel says. No, Laura says quietly. I don't think I will. Jay Torres makes his choice. He steps between Anna and Thomas, his back to Anna, facing the two younger officers. Nobody touches her, he says. You hear me? Nobody. Jay, stand down or you're suspended, Joel says. Then suspend me, Jay says. Officer A. Martinez takes another step forward. Jay's right. This is wrong. Officer M. Chun says nothing. She's still staring at the floor. And into this tableau walks Judge Richard Dunham, returning from wherever he fled to, his face pale. He looks at Joel. What's happening here? Trespassing situation, Your Honor, Joel says quickly. Under control. Dunham looks at Anna. Their eyes meet again, and Anna says, very quietly, Richard, tell them who I am. The lobby goes silent. Completely, utterly silent. Even the hum of the fluorescent lights seems to pause. Dunham's mouth opens, closes, opens again. Anna, this isn't. Tell them, Anna says. Dunham looks at Joel, at Thomas, at the growing crowd of onlookers, at Laura, still recording. And then, in a voice barely above a whisper, Joel, this is Justice Anna Wilkins. United States Supreme Court. Thomas drops his radio. It hits the marble floor with a clatter that echoes like a gunshot. Joel's face goes from confusion to recognition to horror in the span of 3 seconds. Justice Wilkins, I had no idea. You had every opportunity to ask, Anna says. Thomas is pale, shaking. I'm so sorry I didn't. You didn't know, Anna says. But you presumed. Do you understand the difference? Thomas can't speak. He just stands there, a young man whose certainty has been shattered like dropped glass. Anna looks around the lobby. At Jay, who risked his job to protect her. Laura, still holding her phone up. At Officer Martinez, who found his courage too late. At Officer Chun, who couldn't find hers at all. At Judge Dunham, who knew and said nothing. Who else knew? Anna asks. Slowly, Dunham raises his hand. Laura raises hers. Two court clerks in the background raise theirs. And none of you said anything, Anna says. It's not a question. Laura's voice is small. I was scared I'd lose your job. Anna finishes. I was scared I'd lose my dignity. Which of us had more to lose? Nobody answers. Anna picks up her satchel from where she set it down on a bench during the confrontation. She looks at her watch. 8:47. She has 13 minutes to prepare for oral arguments. I have work to do, she says. And then she walks toward the elevator, and this time, nobody stops her. The doors close. The lobby remains frozen. And Joel Martinez, supervisor of courthouse security, realizes that he's just made the worst mistake of his career. Now, I need to pause this story for just a moment because I need your help with something. This story is Anna's story. Not just because it's dramatic or because it has a satisfying twist, but because it's happening right now, somewhere, to someone. Maybe it's happened to you. Maybe you've been the person at the door, trying to prove you belong. Maybe you've been the person watching, frozen, unsure whether to speak up. Maybe you've been the person who walked past because getting involved felt too risky. We all play a role in these moments. And the only way we change the script is by witnessing it, by talking about it, by refusing to let it fade into the background noise of our lives. So if this story is doing something to you, if it's making you angry or sad or hopeful or uncomfortable, I'm asking you to do two things. 1, subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to keep telling stories like this, stories that don't let us look away. And 2, leave a comment. Tell me which character you see yourself in. Tell me about a door you had to walk through. Tell me what you would have done in that lobby. Your voice matters. Your story matters. And when we share them, we make it a little bit harder for the Thomas Brennans of the world to pretend they don't see us. That's it. That's all I'm asking. Now let's get back to Anna, because her day is just getting started and this story is far from over. In her chambers, Anna sits in the leather chair that once belonged to Justice Marshall, and she allows herself 60 seconds of stillness. Just 60 seconds to feel what she didn't allow herself to feel in the lobby. The humiliation, the exhaustion, the betrayal. She closes her eyes and sees Judge Dunham walking past her, sees his eyes flicker with recognition and then dismissal, sees him choosing his comfort over her dignity. She thinks about Thomas Brennan, so certain in his authority, so blind to his bias. She thinks about Joel Martinez, doubling down on his officer's mistake rather than admitting error. She thinks about the system that created them, trained them, gave them uniforms and radios, and the unquestioned assumption that they belonged while she had to prove it. And then she thinks about the girl from Mobile walking 3 miles in the rain. She opens her eyes. 60 seconds are up. There's a knock on her door. Come in, she says. Michael enters, followed by her 2 other clerks, Priya, a brilliant young woman fresh from Stanford Law, and David, who clerked for Judge Dunham before coming to work for Anna. All 3 of them look stricken. Justice Wilkins, Michael begins, we heard what happened. Laura sent us the video. We're so. Anna holds up a hand. I don't need apologies. I need strategic thinking. Oral arguments start in 43 minutes. Are we ready? The clerks exchange glances. Priya speaks first. With all due respect, shouldn't we postpone? I've just been reminded why I do this work, Anna says. The case we're hearing today is about whether a state can require citizens to pay for the privilege of voting. It's about whether we put up barriers between people and their rights. So no, we're not postponing. We're going to walk into that courtroom, and we're going to do our jobs. Are we ready? Yes, Justice, they say in unison. Good. Now leave me alone for 20 minutes. I need to review my notes. They file out. But David hesitates at the door. Justice Wilkins, for what it's worth, Judge Dunham knows he messed up. He's mortified. Anna looks at him. David, Judge Dunham had a choice. He chose comfort. That's not a mistake. That's a character reveal. Now, please close the door. David leaves. Anna returns to her notes. But the words blur on the page. She's thinking about the consequences. About what happens next. Because this isn't over. This won't be buried quietly in some internal affairs report. Laura's video is probably already circulating. By noon, it'll be on social media. By evening, it'll be national news. By tomorrow, there will be calls for hearings, investigations, firings. And Anna will have to decide, does she let the system handle it, or does she handle the system? Her phone buzzes. A text from Chief Justice William Crawford. Anna, just heard. Are you all right? We need to talk before the session. Anna types back, I'm fine. And yes, we do. At 8:58, Anna walks through the corridors of the Supreme Court toward the chamber where oral arguments are held. Her robes are crisp, her gait steady. As she passes colleagues and staff, some nod in respect. Others look away. Everyone knows. She enters the robbing room where the other 8 justices are preparing. The conversation stops when she enters. Chief Justice Crawford approaches. He's 71, a moderate conservative appointed 15 years ago, and he runs the court like a careful diplomat. Anna, if you need time. I don't, Anna says, reaching for her robe. Justice Sarah Brennan, no relation to Thomas, a liberal from Massachusetts, touches Anna's arm gently. That officer should be fired. Today. Should he? Anna asks, and there's something in her tone that makes Justice Brennan pause. You don't think so? Justice Brennan asks. I think there are 8,000 courthouse security officers in this country, Anna says, fastening her robe. And if we fire one every time he acts on bias, we'll run out of officers before we run out of bias. Maybe the answer isn't punishment. Maybe it's a transformation. Justice Frank Morrison, the court's oldest and most conservative member, snorts. You're going to let him off the hook? No, Anna says, turning to face him. I'm going to make him part of the solution. There's a difference. At exactly 9 a.m., the 9 justices take the bench. Anna sits in her assigned seat, not at the center where the chief sits, but forth from the right. The courtroom is packed. The attorneys at the counsel table look nervous. They should be. This is the Supreme Court, and today they're arguing whether democracy costs money. Chief Justice Crawford calls the court to order. We will hear an argument today in case number 23-5847, Brennan v. State of North Carolina. Anna notices the name, Brennan. A coincidence, surely. Or maybe the universe has a sense of irony. For 90 minutes, the justices question the attorneys. Anna asks about accessibility, about disparate impact, about what happens to a citizen who can't afford photo ID. At one point, she asks the state's attorney, Counsel, how much does it cost to obtain the required identification in North Carolina? Between $25 and $45, Justice Wilkins, depending on the document. And if a citizen works hourly wage, how many hours of work does that represent? I'm not sure I understand the relevance. I'm asking you to do math, counsel. Minimum wage in North Carolina is $7.25 per hour. $45 is 6 hours of work. So we're asking citizens to spend 6 hours of labor to exercise a constitutional right. How is that not a poll tax? The attorney stammers through an answer. Anna writes notes. The session ends at 10:30. The justices retire to conference. Chief Justice Crawford addresses the room. Before we discuss the case, I want to address what happened this morning. Anna, the court stand with you. We're prepared to issue a statement. No, Anna says. 8 pairs of eyes turn to her. No statement. Justice Brennan asks. Anna, this is outrageous. We can't just. We can and we will, Anna says. Because if the Supreme Court issues a statement every time one of its members is disrespected, we're making this about me. It's not about me. It's about systems. It's about training. It's about culture. And I'm going to address it, but not through a press release. Chief Justice Crawford leans back in his chair. What are you planning? Anna meets his eyes. I'm planning to have a conversation with every person who was in that lobby this morning. And then I'm going to make recommendations for how we prevent this from happening again. Recommendations? Justice Morrison asks. To whom? To the court, to the security division, to the Federal Judicial Center, to whoever will listen. Justice Brennan shakes her head. Anna, you're the victim here. You shouldn't have to fix this. I'm not the victim, Anna says quietly. I'm the person with the most power in that situation, which means I'm the person with the most responsibility to make sure it doesn't happen to someone with less power. Silence settles over the conference room. Then Chief Justice Crawford nods. All right, keep me informed. Now let's discuss Brennan versus North Carolina. They spend the next hour debating the case. Anna argues passionately for striking down the law. 3 justices are with her. 3 are against. 3 are undecided. It'll come down to how they write their opinion. At noon, Anna returns to her chambers. There are 47 messages waiting. 3 from reporters, 7 from advocacy organizations, 12 from former clerks and colleagues, and 1 from her mother in Mobile, Alabama, saw the video. You okay, baby? Anna calls her mother. Hey, Mama. Anna Marie Wilkins, I raise you better than to let some fool with a badge disrespect you. Anna smiles despite everything. I didn't let him, Mama. I stood my ground. I know you did. I'm proud of you. But baby, you shouldn't have to. Not at this point. Not after everything you've done. That's the thing, Mama. There is no this point. There's no altitude where you can escape this. Her mother is quiet for a moment. So what are you going to do? I'm going to make sure he learns from it. And I'm going to make sure the system learns from it. You're not going to crush him? I could, Anna says. But what would that teach him? That power punishes? He already knows that. I want to teach him something different. Her mother laughs, a sound like wind chimes. You always were the merciful one. Your daddy would have had that boy fired before lunch. Daddy believed in justice through punishment. I believe in justice through transformation. Same result. No, Anna says. Better result. Punishment changes one person's behavior. Transformation changes how they see the world. After she hangs up, Anna sits at her desk and writes. Not legal opinions. Not memos. A letter. To Thomas Brennan. Officer Brennan, this morning you stopped me at a door and asked me to prove I belonged. You didn't mean harm. I understand that. You were doing what you were trained to do. Assess threats, enforce protocols, maintain order. But here's what your training didn't teach you. Bias lives in the space between what we see and what we assume. You saw a black woman in her 50s. You assumed I didn't belong in the space I was entering. That assumption was based on every cultural message you've absorbed about who holds power and who doesn't, about who fits in elite spaces and who doesn't. You're not evil for making that assumption, but you're responsible for examining it. I'm not writing to punish you. I'm writing to offer you something harder, the opportunity to grow. You can keep your job, but in exchange, you're going to spend the next 6 months learning why you made the assumptions you made. You're going to attend bias training. You're going to mentor Officer Torres, and you're going to write a monthly reflection on what you're learning. This isn't a gift. It's a challenge, because transformation is harder than punishment. But if you do the work, if you really do it, you'll become the kind of officer who makes other officers better. And that's worth more than any punishment I could give you. Justice Anna Wilkins. She prints the letter, seals it in an envelope, and then she calls Joel Martinez. Justice Wilkins, Joel says, his voice tight. I've already submitted my resignation. It'll be effective. I'm not accepting your resignation, Anna says. Silence. You're what? I'm not accepting it. You made a terrible decision this morning. But if you resign, you learn nothing. And more importantly, you teach nothing. I need you to stay. And I need you to make this right. Ow! Joel asks, and she hears something break in his voice. Relief, maybe, or just exhaustion. First, you're going to implement quarterly bias audits of every security interaction in this building. You're going to track who gets stopped, who gets questioned, who gets escorted out. And you're going to disaggregate that data by race and gender. Second, you're going to create a civilian oversight board to review complaints. Third, you're going to personally lead bias training for every security officer in this courthouse. And fourth, you're going to write me a report every month detailing what you've learned. Justice Wilkins, I don't deserve. You don't, Anna agrees. But the citizens who walk through this building deserve an officer who's learned from this. So the question isn't what you deserve. The question is whether you're willing to do the work. There's a long pause. I am, Joel says finally. I will. Good. I'll send you a detailed proposal by Friday. She hangs up and calls Judge Dunham. Anna, I'm so sorry, he begins. Richard, I don't want your apology. I want your accountability. What does that mean? It means you're going to hold a press conference. You're going to explain that you saw what was happening and didn't intervene. You're going to talk about why you made that choice. And you're going to commit publicly to being better. Anna, that'll destroy my reputation. Your reputation, Anna says softly, was destroyed the moment you chose comfort over courage. This is you rebuilding it, brick by brick, the hard way. Another pause. Then, all right, I'll do it. This Friday, 3 o'clock. Anna, why are you doing this? Why not just let us all burn? Because burning you doesn't change anything, Richard. It just makes me feel better for a day. And I'm interested in decades, not days. She hangs up, and then she drafts a proposal, 15 pages, single-spaced, detailing reforms to courthouse security protocols nationwide. She sends it to the Chief Justice, to the Director of the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts, and to the heads of security at every federal courthouse in the country. By 3 o'clock, the video of her confrontation had 6 million views. By 5 o'clock, CNN is running a segment called Supreme Court Justice Stopped by Security. By 6 o'clock, the White House press secretary is asked about it during a briefing and says the president believes all Americans deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. Anna watches none of it. She's in her chambers, reading briefs for next week's cases. At 7 o'clock, there's a knock on her door. It's Thomas Brennan. He's out of uniform, wearing jeans and a t-shirt, and he looks like he hasn't slept. Justice Wilkins, I don't know if I should even be here, but I got your letter. And I wanted to say thank you. And I'm sorry. And I don't understand why you're giving me another chance. Anna gestures to a chair. Sit. He sits. She leans back in her chair and looks at him, really looks at him, the way she looked at him this morning, but differently now. This morning, she saw a man performing authority he didn't understand. Now she sees a man confronting the limits of his understanding. Officer Brennan, do you know why I'm giving you another chance? No, ma'am. Because I've been you. Thomas blinks. You've been me? Not exactly you. But I've been the person who made assumptions based on incomplete information. I've been the person who didn't see my own bias until someone held up a mirror. And when that happened, I had two choices: defend my ignorance or confront it. I chose confrontation. It was hard. It was humiliating, but it made me better. So I'm offering you the same choice. Thomas nods slowly. I want to do the work. I really do, but I don't even know where to start. Start by asking questions. Start by listening more than you talk. Start by examining every assumption you make about who belongs where. And start by understanding that this isn't about you being a bad person. This is about you being a person raised in a society with bad programming. Your job is to reprogram yourself. Can I ask you something? Thomas says, yes. This morning, why didn't you just tell me who you were? Right away. Anna smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Because I shouldn't have to. My humanity shouldn't depend on my title. If I have to be a Supreme Court justice to earn your respect, then what happens to the woman who isn't? What happens to the janitor, the clerk, the defendant? Do they deserve less dignity because they have less power? Thomas looks down at his hands. No, they don't. Then that's your answer. I didn't tell you because I wanted you to see me as a person first. Not a title, not a position, a person. And you couldn't. I'm sorry, Thomas says, and his voice breaks. I know you are. Now the question is, what are you going to do with that sorrow? Are you going to carry it like a burden? Or are you going to turn it into something useful? Thomas stands. I'm going to turn it into something useful. I promise. After he leaves, Anna sits in the silence of her chambers and allows herself to feel it all. The exhaustion, the anger, the hope, the doubt. Because that's the thing about moments like this. They don't resolve neatly. They ripple outward, touching every surface, changing every shape. And you can't control the ripples. You can only choose what you throw into the water. 6 months have passed. Thomas Brennan attends bias training every Tuesday. He writes monthly reflections that start defensive and gradually become thoughtful. He works alongside Jay Torres, who teaches him that security isn't about control, it's about care. He stops 3 other officers from making the same mistake he made. He becomes, slowly and painfully, a better version of himself. Joel Martinez implements the reforms Anna demanded. The first quarterly audit reveals that Black and Latino visitors are stopped and questioned at twice the rate of white visitors. The second audit shows improvement. The third shows more. By the 6th month, the disparities have shrunk by 60%. Judge Richard Dunham holds his press conference. He's pilloried in the media for a week. But he also receives letters from people who say his honesty gave them permission to confront their own complicity. He changes the way he runs his courtroom. He starts asking different questions. Laura Chun, the clerk who filmed the confrontation, is promoted to a supervisory position. She uses her platform to create a reporting system for bias incidents that protects complainants from retaliation. Officer Martinez becomes a trainer himself, teaching new officers about implicit bias. Officer M. Chun, who looked away, eventually finds her voice and reports a senior officer who was harassing female employees. And Anna Wilkins continues to do her work. She writes opinions. She asks hard questions during oral arguments. She mentors young clerks. She calls her mother every Sunday. But she also does something else. She starts speaking at law schools, at judicial conferences, at police academies. She tells the story of that morning in October. She talks about power and dignity and transformation. And she ends every speech the same way. I could have destroyed everyone in that lobby. I had the power. But power without purpose is just violence. And I didn't want violence. I want to change. So I chose the harder path. I chose to transform pain into policy, humiliation into healing, anger into action. And here's what I learned. Justice isn't about punishing the guilty. It's about creating a world where the next person doesn't have to be guilty in the first place. On a Tuesday morning in April, 7 months after the incident, Anna walks through the same side entrance at 8:47 a.m. Thomas Brennan is at his post. "Good morning, Justice Wilkins," he says. "Good morning, Officer Brennan." He gestures to a new sign that's been installed. "Judicial entrance. All court personnel welcome." "We put up the sign like you suggested," Thomas says. "No more confusion." "Good," Anna says. "But it shouldn't have taken my title to earn respect." Thomas nods. "No, ma'am. It shouldn't have. I'm sorry it did." Anna looks at him, at this young man who made a terrible mistake and chose to learn from it. "How's the training going?" she asks. "Hard," Thomas admits. "But good." Jay says I'm starting to ask the right questions. "What kind of questions?" "Questions like, who am I assuming belongs here? Who am I assuming doesn't? What am I basing those assumptions on? Am I seeing people, or am I seeing categories?" Anna smiles. "Those are good questions, Officer Brennan. Keep asking them." She walks toward the elevator. Just before the doors close, Thomas calls out, "Justice Wilkins?" She turns. "Thank you," he says, "for giving me a chance to be better." Anna nods. "Thank you for taking it." The doors close. She rides up to her chambers. There's a new case on her desk, a new injustice to address, a new question to answer. The work continues. It always continues. But for a moment, she allows herself to feel something she doesn't feel often enough: hope. Because Thomas Brennan is not the same man he was 7 months ago. Because Joel Martinez is not the same supervisor. Because systems can change slowly and painfully if people are willing to do the work. And Anna Wilkins, the girl from Mobile who walked 3 miles in the rain to get to the library, has learned something that no law school could teach her. Power is not just the ability to punish. It's the ability to transform. And transformation, real transformation, requires something harder than anger. It requires mercy and patience and the belief that people can be better than their worst moments if someone is brave enough to show them how. She sits at her desk, opens her briefcase, pulls out the next set of briefs, and begins to read. Because the work continues. It always continues. And there is so much work left to do. But for the first time in a long time, Anna believes that the work is not just hers to carry, that the Thomas Brennans and Joel Martinez's and Richard Dunhams of the world are starting to carry some of it too, that the burden of change is becoming a collective one, and that, she thinks, is how you move from justice to healing. One person at a time, one choice at a time, one door at a time. There's a particular kind of visibility that comes with being recognized. Not just seen, but truly recognized for your humanity, not just your title. For your dignity, not just your credentials. It's the visibility that says, you belong here not because you earned it, though you did, but because belonging is a human right, not a privilege to be granted. Anna Wilkins fought for that visibility. Not just for herself, but for everyone who comes after her. For the janitor who enters through the side door. For the defendant who walks into the courtroom with fear in their heart. For the young black girl in Mobile who doesn't know yet that she'll grow up to sit on the Supreme Court, but who deserves to walk through every door without having to prove she's earned the right to exist. This is not a story about revenge. It's a story about transformation. It's about the radical choice to believe that people can change, that systems can evolve, that pain can become a purpose if we're willing to do the hard work of turning it into something useful. Thomas Brennan learned that. Joel Martinez learned that. Richard Dunham learned that. And maybe, just maybe, we can learn that too. Because every single one of us is both Anna and Thomas. We've all been underestimated. And we've all underestimated someone else. We've all stood at doors we had to prove we belonged through. And we've all stood guard at doors we shouldn't have been guarding. The question is, what do we do with that knowledge? Do we weaponize our pain, or do we transform it? Do we punish, or do we teach? Do we burn the house down, or do we rebuild it better? Anna chose transformation, and that choice rippled outward through Thomas, through Joel, through Laura and Jay and Officer Martinez, and everyone who witnessed what happened that morning and decided to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem. That's the story I wanted to tell you. Not a story about one moment of humiliation, but a story about what we do with our moments of humiliation. How we turn them into moments of education. How we refuse to let bitterness make us small. How we choose, over and over again, to believe in the possibility of change, even when change feels impossible. Anna Wilkins is still on the Supreme Court. She's still writing opinions that shape the law. She's still fighting for voting rights and civil rights and human rights. She's still calling her mother every Sunday. She's still walking through that side entrance at 8:47 a.m. But now, when she walks through, Thomas Brennan sees her. Really sees her. Not because she's a Supreme Court justice, though she is, but because she's a person. A human being worthy of dignity and respect simply because she exists. And that, more than any legal opinion she'll ever write, might be her greatest legacy. Because she didn't just change Thomas Brennan that day. She changed what power means. She showed us that power isn't the ability to destroy your enemies. Power is the ability to transform them into allies. And if we're brave enough to wield that kind of power, the power of mercy, the power of patience, the power of transformative justice, then maybe, just maybe, we can change the world. One door at a time. One person at a time. One choice at a time.